The crystalline throne room of Velar Prime fell silent as Queen Lysandra's 6 eyes widened in disbelief. Through the holographic display that dominated the chamber's center, she watched something impossible unfold on the surface of the contested moon below. A single human soldier stood against her entire forward battalion. "Magnify Sector 7. She commanded, her voice carrying the harmonic undertones of her species. The image sharpened, revealing a figure in battered armor, surrounded by the smoking wreckage of what had been 12 heavy combat walkers. "Who is this?" the Queen whispered. Her military advisor, General Vex, manipulated the controls with his forearms. Biometric scans identify the human as Ralph Torres, Sergeant, Earth Defense Coalition. Age 28 standard cycles. No notable commendations in his file, Your Majesty. "An ordinary soldier by their standards. Ordinary," the Queen repeated, the word tasting foreign on her tongue. On the display, Ralph moved with brutal efficiency. The Valarian shock troops, each standing 3 meters tall, and bred for conquest, advanced information. They had crushed 17 civilizations before humanity had even developed space flight. They were unstoppable. They were dying. Ralph's weapon barked in short, controlled bursts. Each shot found its mark with uncanny precision. He moved between cover points that shouldn't have provided protection, using the terrain in ways the Valarian battle computers hadn't predicted. When his rifle clicked empty, he didn't retreat. He charged forward. "Impossible," General Vex hissed. "He should be experiencing cognitive shutdown from our psychic suppressors." The Queen leaned forward, fascinated. "Continue observation." Ralph closed the distance to the nearest Valarian warrior in seconds. The soldier towered over him, armored in biometallic scales that could deflect plasma fire. Ralph didn't hesitate. He drove his combat knife through the microscopic gap between helmet and chest plate. A weakness that shouldn't have been visible to human eyes, that the Valarians themselves barely knew existed. The warrior fell. 3 more rushed him simultaneously. Ralph rolled under the first swing, used the second's momentum to flip it into the third, and finished all 3 with shots from a sidearm he'd somehow acquired. His movements flowed like water, like violence made poetry. "How many has he eliminated?" the Queen asked. 47, Your Majesty." From a battalion of 200, the human was limping now. Blood seeped through tears in his armor. He'd taken at least 3 hits that should have been fatal. Yet he kept fighting. A Valarian commander activated his personal shield and advanced with the energy blade, a weapon that had beheaded kings and toppled empires. Ralph waited until the last possible second, then dove forward, sliding under the shield's lower threshold. He came up inside the commander's guard and drove his knife upward. The commander collapsed. "What drives him?" the Queen wondered aloud. "He must know he cannot win. Our reinforcements are minutes away. Even if he defeats this battalion, another awaits." "Perhaps," her advisor suggested. "He is defective. Humans have been known to malfunction under stress." But the Queen shook her head, watching Ralph drag himself behind a barricade. He was speaking into his communicator now. The translation matrix picked up his words. "Lima Actual. This is Broken Arrow. I've got maybe 3 minutes before they're through. Tell Lara." His voice cracked. "Tell her I'm sorry I won't make it to her graduation. Tell her to become the doctor she always wanted to be. Tell her her old man loved her more than anything in this universe." The Queen's 3 hearts constricted. "He has offspring?" "Affirmative. 1 daughter, Lara Torres, age 17, enrolled in medical studies on Earth." Ralph wasn't fighting for glory or conquest. He was fighting for time. Time for his fellow humans to evacuate the civilian settlement beyond the ridge. Time purchased with his blood and the bodies of his enemies. "He knows he's dying," the Queen said softly. "Yes, Your Majesty." Ralph stood again, swaying. The remaining Valarian forces, over 100 warriors, began their final assault. They expected him to surrender, to beg for mercy as so many species had before. Instead, Ralph smiled. It was a terrible smile, full of defiance and unbroken will. He charged. What followed would be analyzed in military academies for generations. Ralph moved like death itself, like something beyond human limits. He fought with rocks when his weapons failed, with his bare hands when everything else was gone. The Valarians had superior strength, superior technology, superior numbers. Ralph had something else entirely. When the reinforcements finally arrived, they found him in the center of a circle of bodies, still breathing despite wounds that would have killed any Valarian 3 times over. His hands still gripped his knife. His eyes still burned with purpose. The Queen rose from her throne. "Cease fire, Your Majesty." General Vex's voice carried confusion and alarm. "I said cease fire. Bring him to me, alive, and send our best healers. But the protocols are suspended." The Queen interrupted, her voice carrying the full weight of her authority. "I would speak with this human." As the medical teams rushed to stabilize Ralph, the Queen reviewed the battle footage again. She had conquered 40 systems, commanded fleets that darken suns, and never once questioned the Valarian right to rule. Until now. "Who is this?" she repeated, but this time she knew the answer. This was what humanity became when pushed to the absolute edge. This was what it meant when humans said they would never surrender, never yield, never stop fighting for those they loved. They weren't the strongest species, or the fastest, or the most advanced, but they might be the most dangerous. Because when a human soldier could stand alone against an army not for glory, not for conquest, but for 3 minutes, that would let his daughter live, what could humanity accomplish when united? The question terrified and fascinated her in equal measure. Ralph Torres survived, though he would never fight again. But his daughter, Lara, would graduate with honors in xenomedicine. She would later serve as chief medical officer on the first human Valarian peace vessel, treating soldiers from both sides with equal compassion. And every Valarian who met her knew who she was. She was the daughter of the man who taught a queen to fear,